Good evening. I'm George Runkle with Runkle Consulting Incorporated. I'm sorry my hair's not combed too well, but I am an engineer. We aren't known for being fastidious about appearances. Today's topic is going to be structural repairs to your house. Primarily, we're going to talk about foundation repairs because that's usually where you're going to have problems structurally in your house. We've been involved in doing design work for foundation repairs since 2000. And originally, when we started, we got referrals. Actually, it's 2001. I'm sorry, 2001. And we started out with getting referrals from the foundation repair companies. I was in the Air Force Reserve. I'd been activated after 9/11. I came back. My firm was gone, and I had to restart my business. And Atlas Piers of Atlanta started referring homeowners over to me when the homeowners would call and they felt they needed an engineer out there. And they did that as a favor to me to help me get started with my business. From there, I started to build that business, and today I almost never get referrals from foundation repair companies. I get everything directly over the internet. And that's kind of important because I'm not making anything from a foundation repair company. They get their referrals from me. Okay, now one of the things that I run into, and this kind of perturbs me, and this just happened last week. I went out to a house, old house, and it had some foundation settlement. And the guy had three different foundation repairs companies come out, and each one described a radically different repair method. Actually, at four. One he just ignored completely. Um, they all had radically different suggestions for repair. I got out there and there was some minor cracking in two places on the foundation. The house is 40 years old. I recommended the option of doing nothing. And I've done that a number of times. I'll normally give the homeowner a couple of options. One, you can put in foundation piers, and let's say it'll cost you $10,000. Two, you can do nothing, and the foundation will probably settle in minor amounts over the next few years, and you'll have to fix your drywall cracks every couple of years. Repaint may cost you every 3 years like 2,000 bucks. Well, if you got to do like five foundation pairs, that's $5,000. If you got to spend like 2,000 bucks every couple of years, at some point in time, if you're going to be in the house long enough, it might be worth it to do the repair, the foundation, and stop that. But other times, it just isn't worth it. And you have to understand, in your house, you're not living in the space shuttle. You are living in a wood structure. When I was early in this construction business, when I was like in my 30s, people would get, when you see somebody get wrapped up about being exact, like you do a compaction test and you've got to compact the soil to a standard compacted sample to 95% of the compaction of a standard sample, and you get somebody would get a result of 94.7%, and the engineer would disapprove it. And what you'd end up telling the engineers, we're not building the space shuttle. We're putting up a building. Things are a lot more inexact. It's even more so in your home. Your wood framing changes shape over time. Your foundations will move over time. If you've got a house that's 40 years old, there's going to be cracks. If you've got a house that's 60 years old, there's got to be cracks. It's going to happen. How much do you want to spend to fix everything? At some point in time, you have to make the decision. You're not living in a perfect structure. And this is one of the things I try to impress upon my clients. Yes, that crack that's at the corner of your doorway up there, maybe a diagonal crack indicating your foundation is moving a bit. That's a hairline crack. It's been that way for 10 years. Do you want to spend $10,000 stabilizing the foundation that'll maybe stop that crack? What you have to understand is when you stabilize your foundation with piers, it doesn't completely stabilize. The piers keep moving for a couple of years. So you're still going to get the movement of the cracks. This is a hard decision to make sometimes, and this is why you probably should call an engineer before you call a foundation repair company to tell you whether you should do the repairs or not. So, one of the things is you got to consider how old is your house? If your house is about 40 years old, it's probably moved as much as it's going to move. If it's got minor cracking in it, it may just be minor cracking, and that's just how it is. If it's got like big cracks, generally for some reason the limit seems to be 3/16 inch cracks. If the cracks are over 3/16 inch, I don't know why this is true, but it is. If they're like 1/4 inch cracks, it indicates you got a structural issue that's got to be taken care of. So if your foundation's showing, 1/4 inch cracks, or even 3/8 inch, or I've seen them 1/2 inch cracks, and your house is 50 or 60 years old, you probably got to fix it. If your house is 40, 50 years old and it's got an 1/8 inch crack in your basement wall, it's probably okay. You may just want to fill it up with some caulk and live your life. Now, the final thing is, I started off saying I got referred by foundation repair companies. I don't anymore. I get it on the internet. And what I saw last week when I went out with the foundation repair companies recommending all these wild repairs, you would be better off if you've got problems in your house structurally, whether it's a sagging floor or settling foundation, to spend a few $100 to get an engineer to come out and look at it first. There are those of us that put that in our practice. I don't do as much of it as I like to because it kind of takes away from our other work, and that kind of can be a headache if you want to get me out there, because I have to work it in with other stuff that we're doing. Field work takes, if I go to your house here in Atlanta, it's going to shoot a half of my day. And that kills me when we get back to try to get back to design work. So you got to kind of fit in what our schedule is. And other engineers are going to be the same way. You may take you 3 weeks to get an engineer to come out and look at your house. Wait the 3 weeks. Pay the money. It may cost you up to $1,000. I don't know what other areas of the country are charging, and some guys are super cheap, some are super expensive. But the thing is the guy can save you thousands of bucks from a foundation repair company that'll come out there and tell you need $50,000 worth of repairs. My favorite firsthand story that happened to me, I went out to Cartersville, which is far north of the city. Guy called me up. He had suspected some settlement. He was concerned. I get out to the house. I could see the front corner, the right side of his garage. As you look at the house, definitely had some foundation failure. I could see the cracks in it. Okay, I go in there, and he told me that he had movement in his floor up above, and there was cracking in the wall. So I go look at it, and I took out my laser level and measured it. The floor over the garage was was deflected seriously. I looked in the garage. It's a 2-car garage, no beam across it. The floor had deflected. So I told him he needed to put in a post in the middle of the garage and a beam going around to the edges and posts at the edges, or put it up on the stud wall. And he needed to peer up in the front corner. It was probably about, I don't know, $10,000 worth of repairs. He'd been quoted a repair from a foundation repair company that was going to put foundations all the way around his garage, $30,000. It would have been too much money, and it wouldn't have fixed the problem. The thing is, the foundation repair company sent out a salesman. The guy probably last year was selling used cars or stereos, or I don't know. I mean, these guys are salesmen. The guys I've talked to in foundation repair companies that go out and do stuff, they may have been selling life insurance 2 or 3 years ago. They're not engineers usually. There's a couple of exceptions. One of the companies around here, well, Atlas in particular, they have people that know what they're doing, and they're not on a commission, they're on a salary. But a lot of these other guys are on commissions. They want to sell you piers. They make a lot of money with piers. Next thing, you got to understand, there's at least one company here in Atlanta that gives kickbacks to engineers for referrals. I had met them, I liked what I saw, I was going to use them on my list of companies to refer, and they called me up one day. And the lady said she wanted to get my information. I'm like, okay, cool. And she said, we're going to enroll you in our special partner program. Do you know what that is, George? No, what is it? Well, the first referral we give you, you get $100. The second referral, and from that point on, we give you 10% of what we bring in. And I was like, what? Okay, now if I give you 5 piers, that is $5,000 roughly, $5,500 now, because about $1,100 a foundation repair pier now and budget pricing. So I get $550. That's almost what I charge you to come out to your house. I charge you a couple of hundred more than that, okay? But $550, I could get away with charging people $100 and get that kickback. I do roughly 2 evaluations a week. That's a lot of money in kickbacks from that company every week. And every additional peer gets me an extra $100. So if I'm looking at something that's maybe 4 peers to fix your foundation, well, hell, I put in an extra peer. That gives me another $110, and it costs you $1,100. So make sure the engineer that you call out, make him put in his report that he's not getting a kickback from anybody he refers to you. Better yet, go look up the foundation repair companies on any of these referral sites. Now, you have a number of the ones with reviews. Angie's List is one. I'm on Angie's List, actually. I'm rated pretty high. But Angie's List, you got Yelp, you got a couple other ones out there that people put their reviews. Read the reviews. Now, obviously, there's going to be a couple out there that are weird and cranks. I got one. The guy didn't like me because he was trying to sell his house, and we found he had settlement, and he wanted to say he wasn't. We wouldn't. And he didn't like it, gave us a bad review. Hey, that happens. You got to read through it. Look at what most of the reviews are. Look at how many stars the people get and choose it that way. That way you don't have to worry about a kickback going to somebody or some sort of conflict of interest. But if you do get a referral, make sure that guy puts in writing that he's not getting a kickback, because you don't want to end up spending extra money. Now, I'll continue with what happened with this foundation repair company. I told them I couldn't take the money back. It was against the rules of the Board of Registration. I mean, I'd get me in a lot of trouble. I could lose my license. And they said, oh, yeah, we understand that. But what we do, a lot of our engineers, we donate to their favorite charity. Well, let's figure this out, how much that would be to my favorite charity right now here. So I'm going to just take a look. Bear with me a second. Okay, let's figure I do foundation investigations 45 times, 45 weeks a year. Figure I'd take some time off. 2 week, that's 90. And let's say roughly five peers per foundation repair, because I'm going to recommend peers now. I can make money. So times 90 times 5 times $100 a peer, $45,000 a year on kickbacks. And that goes to my favorite charity. They're going to put me on their gold donor list. They're going to have special dinners in my favor. That $45,000 would get me written up in the local paper. How generous George Runkle is. That would get me business. That's worth a hell of a lot of advertisement. No, that's not being selfless. That's being selfish. That's using your money that I should not be getting to advance myself. That's stealing, in my opinion. Anyway, I don't refer to that company. They got real angry at me when I wrote about it in my blog, told me that they didn't want to work with me anymore. Good. Go your own way, dudes. And if I find an engineer that's been taking a kickback from them, I will happily report him to the board, because not only is he being dishonest, he's able to quote an unusually low price to a homeowner because he's making his money on commissions. And also, that's another thing to look for too. Now, let's talk about price. This is the last thing we're going to talk about. How much should you pay an engineer to come out? It's all over the map. My colleagues, the lowest one will charge $150. He'll send a technician. I'm using that as a rough thing. It's a high school guy with maybe a high school graduate that was a painter and then went to work for him. And he comes around, takes a look at it. He gets half the money and he kicks back the other half goes to his employer, who's not really his employer, calls him a subcontractor. That way he doesn't have to pay benefits to this guy going around. And the guy comes back, they take out a standard letter that's got the seal of the engineer on it. He doesn't even read it, and it goes out and it tells you what you need to be done. That's the cheapest that you're going to get. One of the firms I compete with, the technician will then tell you he can do the repair for you. And do you want somebody doing the repair that's already told you what had to be done? I don't think so. I've seen him recommend repairs that were stupid too, but we won't even get into that. Next step is I got colleagues that will then, and this is a good business model, they'll stack a whole bunch of these together in a day, so they can hit a number of them as it goes along, and maybe it'll run you about $400 or $500. And what that does for you is it gets you the benefit that they're going to your house and then a half an hour to the next house, a half hour to the next house. Then they come back to the office, they write up the reports, and they don't have a whole lot of time. We're significantly higher because we'll go out to your house, maybe do 2 of these in a day. Each one, it kills like 4 or 5 hours of time, because traffic here in Atlanta takes me an hour to get out there, hour to get back. Always spend an hour at your house, that's 3 hours. And then I spend an hour and a half writing the report, that's 4.5 hours. It starts to run up in money. And we're not cheap by the hour. It's not like $30 an hour. Don't kid yourself. I'm a Ivy League graduate with a master's degree. I don't come cheap, and that's the thing. And neither is my staff. We're all graduate engineers, and we charge the money. But the thing is we'll save you money. If you like this video, please press like at the bottom. Feel free to leave your comments. Unless they're obscene or racist, I'll take them off in a heartbeat if they are. And look forward to talking to you later. Take care.